Sound of Freedom has been a huge success at the box office, and it's also been hugely successful in spreading the message that Sound of Freedom wanted to spread when it comes to child sex trafficking and just sex trafficking in general. And Jim Caviezel joined Charlie Kirk in this interview here that I thought was really good, and I'll link the entire thing in the description, but I'll kind of show you the highlights in this video, the most important parts that I thought from Jim Caviezel's appearance on Charlie Kirk's show. But Sound of Freedom has been a huge success at the box office, and people are still trying to bury this movie. And in this interview, Jim Caviezel does talk to Charlie Kirk about the censorship from the media, about the truth about why these media outlets and why Hollywood is trying to bury the movie Sound of Freedom, as well as a lot of other things about his journey and stuff like that. Like I said, the full link will be in the description, but I'm going to show you the highlights in this video. Let's get into it.
What is it about Hollywood where they get so up in arms about the issue of child sex trafficking? I would have thought, if I was just kind of uninitiated in this space, that Hollywood would at least be neutral on your film. Why are they so opposed, so frantic in antagonizing Sound of Freedom? What's going on here?
Well, I'll give you an example, Charlie. We were about 4 years ago, we showed the movie, and this has been a 5-year deal. And they've done everything they could to stop it, as they did this with The Passion of the Christ. About 4 years ago, we showed it in a theater. There was like 5 viewings. And in each viewing, they were always talking during this one part, the audience. And I thought, maybe there's something wrong. I'd never seen that before. And about 1,500 people at the end, I spoke to them. And I asked them, what that was. And they all yelled out Epstein Island. And then I said, oh, okay, now I understand. We're shining a light on something they don't want shined on. And
it's very obvious, man. I mean, is there really any other reason why Disney would be owning this since 2018 and the movie was completely finished? They wouldn't have to spend a dime on it outside of advertising, and really, like, the advertising for this movie, the budget probably wasn't big at all. So really, they would have just turned a profit. It would have been so simple to just release the movie in theaters and collect money. But they didn't, because they owned it since 2018, and they didn't want anybody seeing this movie because of the agenda, because of what Sound of Freedom exposes. It's about the message, it's not about the movie. That's why they wouldn't release it. That's why CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, even Forbes, I was going to bring this up later on, but even Forbes is writing articles now, hit pieces on Sound of Freedom. We'll go over that maybe later on in the video, or maybe in another one. But like Washington Post, Rolling Stone, all of the woke media outlets don't want you to see this. They're trying their absolute best to bury the movie, or at the very least just kind of degrade it by saying that it's based on bogus statistics and QAnon conspiracy theories. It's very obvious why that is.
We only have a minute in this segment, then we have another segment just right after. Can you just give us a little insight? How successful has Sound of Freedom been in the last week and a half?
Well, it could have been a lot bigger, and I wanted it to be bigger, but you guys in the news, the good news, and the people are the ones that are keeping this thing going. And I think the other side is, I was doing interviews for 3 weeks and nothing was even mentioned. They just ignored us the whole time. In fact, a friend of mine in Seattle said, I don't know if it was the Seattle PI, I think it was, where they listed films that were opening up and we weren't even listed. And we were going to win the box office and we weren't even listed. So there's a group of people that want to make sure that this isn't around.
Not only has it not been listed, not only are theaters and Hollywood in general just not pushing the movie, not trying to sell tickets for this movie, but also they're doing really shady things, nefarious things behind the scenes, like refunding tickets that people never requested a refund for, saying that a lot of theaters across the country are closed because of their air conditions breaking or just weird things like that happening. That just seems shady, man. It just seems like, for some reason, as soon as this movie comes out, as soon as this movie starts to gain traction, then everybody starts getting their tickets refunded. All the theaters start closing because the air conditions break. It's very shady. It's very coincidental. And when you add all of that in with the fact that Disney was trying to hide this movie since 2018, that all the media are trying to bury this movie and disparage the movie for saying that it's based on bogus statistics and conspiracy theories, when you add all that stuff in together, man, it's very obvious that they're trying their best to hide this movie, Sound of Freedom.
And you sit and so I brought this up a few years ago, and all of a sudden I was attacked by every media. Look it up. It's there. They absolutely went after me. And the next day, I never heard from my agency for 14 months. My lawyers let me go. My agency never called me after that, and essentially I was done. And so when we go and do movies like this, you spend a great deal of time with agents, working with them. I didn't realize the connection, though, to my industry and to Epstein Island and all of that. but obviously there is. And I couldn't sleep for 2 years after doing that movie. 2 years in the middle of the night, horrible nightmares. Something hard that happens to you in your life, you can either fade away or turn and fight. And I've decided to fight back because those precious children are God, and I give my life for God. I'm talking about the Jesus Christ God.
Yeah, I'm starting more and more to love this guy, man. I really hope he finds a way to get more roles in the future. Maybe some Mel Gibson produced movies. Maybe, you know, Angel continues to make these movies and he could star in a lot more of them, because I think people like this just deserve the support that they're getting, like that he's getting currently. But I just hope that support stays there over time, you know, because so many times, like, we'll support the current thing and then, you know, a couple of years go by and this guy just fades off into irrelevance. I really hope that doesn't happen. Like, I want to blow this movie up to the point where it's undeniable people have to hire this guy for their movies. Obviously, like, Hollywood's not going to hire Jim Caviezel ever again after Sound of Freedom and Passion of the Christ, but maybe Mel Gibson, like I said, maybe even some people like, I don't know, Christopher Nolan or somebody who doesn't really need these big studio approvals in order to make their movies, and maybe Angel in the future, maybe even like Daily Wire movies. Like, who knows what it is, but I just hope this guy gets work going forward, and I hope it's, you know, roles that he's actually passionate about. And like I said, we now have Forbes trashing on this movie. Box office hit Sound of Freedom controversy, including QAnon ties and false claims theaters are sabotaging screenings. So false claims that the theaters are sabotaging screenings, I mean, you can say what you want, it just seems fishy. I'm not saying it's 100% the theater sabotaging the screenings. I'm just saying it's really weird how all of a sudden, as soon as Sound of Freedom starts popping off at the box office, starts overtaking Indiana Jones and other movies like it, then all of a sudden these theaters start having air condition problems like crazy, and tickets are being refunded that nobody asked for a refund for. And some of these theaters that are refunding tickets don't even have any air condition problems. They're just, if you really want to show up and go, they'll still let you watch the movie, but they're going to refund your tickets because they don't want the sales to go through. They don't want the box office numbers to keep blowing up. That's just what it seems like, in my opinion. And the QAnon ties is just, it's just nonsense. Like, even if it was true, who cares? It's about the message that this movie is bringing. Who cares? I said it in my last video. I'll say it again, and I'll continue to say it going forward. I don't care if the star of the movie is a schizophrenic lunatic. It doesn't really matter. The message is still really clear, and the message is a very positive one, and there's no reason to disparage this message. There's no reason to disparage the movie. There's all the reason in the world to try and support this movie, Sound of Freedom, going forward. Let me know what you're thinking about this whole Sound of Freedom situation in the comments.